Hey guys, and welcome. This is tutorial number 18 in our Ruby scripting tutorial series. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a script that I think you guys will really like. Tonight we are going to be building a event system that allows you to make your events larger. By that I mean that instead of taking up a single square, that this character will then take up a total of 4 squares or 9 squares, and to offset the image to float to the middle, as well as just their path checking and all of those other things to keep them to make sure that they can move around, yet that they are restricted to those movements, that all 4 of their positions will move along with them, and that they're all passable, etc. So that's kind of the idea of today's tutorial. So let's just kind of hop right into it, because you're going to learn a couple of different things tonight. We're going to briefly touch on what regular expressions are, although I'm not going to really focus on it too much. If you guys really want to learn more about regular expressions, there's a really good help file right here in RPG Maker. Just go into help and then go under index and scroll down to here where it says regular expression, and then if you follow that you can get inside of the regular expression reference manual, and there is quite a bit of stuff in here to tell you about reading regular expressions and so on, but there are plenty of online resources as well, so just kind of get out there, play with it, but I mean really there's a lot of resources on that, so I'm just gonna leave that part up to you guys. But so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna go ahead and call this larger events. Okay, and now the way we're gonna do this is by way of comments. So what you'll do is you'll double click on an event, and then you'll go ahead and assign a comment, and you can go ahead and type in large event and then put its size, say 2 wide, which would mean 2 wide and 2 tall, making it thereby 4 pixels or 4 XYs. So we'll go ahead and we'll just set that, and then we'll close on out. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to modify how an event page loads, so that we can grab that variable that was read off of the page, because it can be page dependent, and then using that we will store that as a local instance variable for that item, and then we'll read that back out anytime someone tries to collide with them, or vice versa anytime they're checking to see whether they're colliding with others. So first off, we need to modify the setup event page, which in game event is just, I believe, setup. Let's just quick and verify that. And so if you look down through the data, here we've got def setup new page, which is to set up the new page for the event. So what we'll do is we'll just hijack this, and then we'll just read the page, and if it's not equal to nil, then we'll fill out the information. Otherwise we'll just process the regular stuff. So I'm just going to haul that on down here, and we're going to say class game event is less than game character, and then we go ahead and add our method here, and we're going to go ahead and alias it. So game event. Now remember that the alias name, the very first part, is what you're going to name the renamed version of the original. So this maintains compatibility with other scripts and so on. So we're going to say game event setup large events. Okay, and then setup, and then we add the unless $@ and then we're going to go ahead and copy the name there, and we're going to go ahead and process that regardless, and then we're just going to go ahead and say if new page not equal to nil, then we're going to check it for a comment. Okay, So let's go ahead and add a check for comment method, because it's always a lot easier to just call a method and say, hey, check for this type of a comment, rather than having to manually check for a comment each and every time. So we're going to go ahead and call this check for comment, and then we'll go ahead and say regular expression. Now again, this is just what I'm going to use for this, but you guys can set it up another way if you'd like. But what this is going to do is go ahead and say if list. So if we go back and we actually look at the game event here, every actual command that they have is part of the list. The page list is actually the code list, which is right here. This is the code list, and you always have items for comments, and then you've got additional lines, show text, etc. All of those have a command number. So all of these are just basically commands. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to read only comment commands. So we're going to go back down here to our script and say list is not equal to nil, and list.size is greater than 0. So in other words, you have at least one command. Okay? So then we go ahead and say list, let's see, for command in at list, and then we'll go ahead and say command.code equal to 108, which is the comment code. And we'll just go ahead and add an if to that. There's also a second command or comment code. I'm not sure what the code number is right offhand. I think it's 400 and something. But that one is in the move event comments, I think. So when you go in here, you go to where's the move events? Wow. There we go, set move route, and then right here there's a comment in here somewheres. I'm apparently blind. Anyways, I know there's one in here. Anyways, the point is though, we're going to mainly be checking just general comments in the first place, so that's all we're going to check for the initial part. So let's go back in there. We know that comment code is 108. So if the code, so this is a RPG Maker command code, so if you actually reopen that and go into the help files, and we look in here under, we've got, here we are, event command. So here we've got the event command class, and it has code, indent, and parameters. Parameters being all the things passed to it. In the case of a comment, it's only going to have one parameter, but because it's an array, we have to specify the first parameter. So the first parameter, in the case of a comment code, or in the first cell of an array, is always 0. So we're going to go ahead and put that, and we'll go ahead and put text equals that. So then we go ahead and we say if text, well, let's just go ahead and say text, and then we're going to go ahead and pass it the regular expression, and then we're going to say if that is not equal to nil, then we're going to go ahead and return true. Let's see. Yeah. We'll have to play with that a little bit here. So return true. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this, and this is going to return the value for the regular expression. So this should probably be returning $1, which is going to be the result of the regular expression as long as it returns a value. So what you could do is you could say if, let's see, if it's not equal to nil, then it had a return response. Or I'm sorry, if it's not equal to false, then it's not. I can't recall. I'll have to play with it. Anyways, what we'll do is we'll come up here and we'll go ahead and define our regular expressions. So let's go ahead and say large event regular expression equals, and then for the regular expression we're going to use /, which starts to define our regular expression, and then in our event we used large event, okay, and then we're going to go ahead and open this back up and then add a space, parenthesis, and I believe it's plus dot or dot plus dot, I think, and then slash, and then we'll use another / and tell it to be case insensitive. So that's what the I stands for, is case insensitive. Again, you can look this over inside of the help file inside of there. So so we're going to go ahead, take that large event expression, and we're going to go ahead and put it right here and say if, or let's see, check for comment, and then we're going to go ahead and pass it the large event regular expression is not equal to nil. Let's see, let's go ahead and actually store that. Let's say result equals. Okay, and then here now we can actually go ahead and add a, just a command here so that we can actually see what the result is, and then we can play with it exactly. So let's go ahead and do that right now just so that we can see what the result is, and this is as it sets up that event. So let's go ahead and run this, and then we'll go ahead and see. And of course now I've got a syntax error on my regular expression, which is totally awesome. It's probably because I got those mixed up. Yep. Alright, so it is plus dot, not dot plus. Alright, so here we go ahead and we see what our event... What did I tell it to print out? I must have a lot of stuff in there. Oh, you know what? It's printing it out for every single event. And there's actually where it was running the command there. So let's see here. So that's where it actually ran the regular expression. The rest of those there, it was just running and returning the text of the command, which would be the parameters, and that's why we were getting each of those messages. So let's actually break this out onto a separate map so that it's going to be easier to debug. Go ahead and call it whatever and put the player out here too. And then let's go ahead and try this again. Undefined method, quote, or parentheses for event command. Oh, that would be why, and I put, let's see, what was the command actually? It wasn't code, oh, parameters. Okay. Let's go ahead and try that again. Okay, so the result was 2. Okay, so we can tell that we got our result back properly. So now that we've got our result back, now we can go ahead and say if result is not equal to nil, which we know it's not. Well, yeah, and see, the thing is that down here we've got this not equal to nil. That doesn't mean that this isn't going to return nil, because if we don't return something off of this, then we're not going to return anything at all, and if we don't return anything at all, it is nothing, which is nil. So you have to check it for that. So we check if the result is not equal to nil, then we're going to go ahead and set character size to result.to integer, because as you saw, it came back as a string, so we need to convert that to an integer so that it knows it's a number and not a string. Okay, so let's go ahead now and we'll close that off. So now we've got a character size. However, I think we actually want a character size stored in our character. So let's go back now and modify our game character class. So now we've got the variable and we're actually keeping it, but I think we need to set a base variable and just set it to the standard size of 1, and then we'll just increment it here in the case that you have the comment code. So what we'll do is we'll come inside of here and is my recorder even running? It is. Okay. I don't know when it's going to turn off on me, so I'm just going to keep on going and assume I'm good. Alright, let's see. We're going to go ahead and we're going to modify the initialize method of game character. So let's take a look at game character. It has just a base initialize method, no parameters, but just in case with others, we're just going to assume that it might. So we're going to alias initialize. So we're going to init game character large events initialize unless $@ and then we're going to copy the old name, run it, and then we're going to set the character size equals 1 as the default size. Then we're going to go ahead and add a reader up here for the size. Oops, base car size. Need to use underscore there. Okay. Alright, so now we've got that data and we can access it and read it from an outside variable if we wanted to. Although I think most everything's going to be internal, but I'm just thinking I might actually need it for well, I guess the player is based off of game character, so maybe not. But anyways, I put it out there just because for right now. So, alright, so now we've defined how to get our number set to 2. So let's just go ahead and make sure we're getting to here. So I like to just put something here, getting to here, and then at char size. Okay, so now we can go ahead and ask it, what is the size of the character being created? So it says, getting to here, the size of the character is 2, thereby proving that our regular expression got our data and stored it appropriately. So now we've read our comment code out of the event. So the next step is now to say, let's go ahead and make the character larger. So what we need to do is we need to define a new method to say, here's where I am, I think, is probably going to be the best way. And not only here's where I am, but here's where I would be if I moved to here. So let's go ahead and call this positions XY. And then what we'll do is we'll provide XY variables to it, but they will be equal to the actual XY variables if you don't provide any. So in other words, if you just ask it, it's going to return where it's currently at and occupying, but if you do supply information, then it will use that information to calculate where it's at. So then we go ahead and let's create another new method here called isLarge. Okay? And we'll put a question mark on it just because it's more of a question. We're just asking, is it large? And then this will simply return character size, char size greater than 1. So we're just having it evaluate that command, saying return the if this is true or if this is not. If it is not true, then it'll say false, thereby meaning that it's 1 or lesser, which should never be less than 1. And then if it is 2 or higher, then it will report it as a large event. So then we go ahead and put if is large, and we'll just go ahead and put a not symbol on that so that it says if it's not large, then we'll go ahead and report just the XY position. Return XY. Okay, and then let's see, did we want it to return? You know what, let's always return it in the same format. So let's actually, and this needs to have an else on it. So this is where it is large, but let's create another new class here called class point. I guess you could call it position or whatever you want. I'm just going to call it point. And then we're going to initialize it with 2 variables, x and y. And then it is going to set its variables x and y equal to the passed in parameters of x and y. And then it is going to allow us to set and get those same variables, x and y. Oops. There we go, just like that. So now we've got a new class here, so we're just going to go ahead and say point.new x and y. Okay, so down here we're going to go ahead and take, and we're going to say for x in 0 dot 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 character size. So dot dot dot, remember, means that a range between wherever you start and wherever you end minus the very last one. So if your size is 1, then it will only check for 0. It basically just doesn't include the last item in the index. It's easier explained, or I'm sorry, it's easier just observed than actually just explained. I don't know. I'm having trouble explaining things tonight, so sorry about that. Alright, so what we're doing is we're saying for every x in size and for every y in size that we have, we're going to go ahead and add a new point. So we're going to go ahead and say, we'll go ahead and call this pause list equals, and we're going to make that be an array. You know, actually, we don't need this is not large stuff, because technically if you have no, if your size is 1, you're going to only return 0 plus x anyways, so technically it's not going to matter. So I'm going to actually just pull that off of there. I don't think we actually need it. We'll go ahead and pull that out. So now we're saying for every x and for every y in our character size, go ahead and push a position list. So we're going to go ahead and say pause list, and then we're going to add or insert an item into that, and that is going to be a new point with the variables x and y. However, this is x and y up here, so we actually need to do, let's go ahead and give those start x and y, so sx and sy, but this needs to be sx plus the x and sx plus, I'm sorry, sy plus the y. That way there we go ahead and we say, here is my position, augment it by 1, and that's the new position. So essentially you're saying start here, build over 1, start there, build over 1. So you can get your list. So that should give us our list, and then we'll go ahead and we'll store that off. Now the one question is, how often do we want to check this? What I'm thinking is we should probably add a last checked xy, and we're going to go ahead and set that to, actually we're going to put that down here. We're going to say last checked xy equals sx. We'll just make it an array. Now we'll make it a point just because then it'll be easier to compare. Okay, so now we've got point sx sy, and then what we're going to do is we're going to come up here and we're going to say if last checked xy equals to point dot new sx sy, then return last position list. Okay, and then we'll set position list right there, and then we'll return position list. Okay, so hopefully you were able to follow that, but basically now we're just going to go ahead, we're going to put this as point new, and actually we don't even need that. Technically it'll just automatically do the compare, but I think we need to create that and at least put it to nil so that it knows that there isn't anything there. And then we'll go ahead and set last pause list, and then we'll just go ahead and set that to nil as well. So it should never return that. So then what we'll do is here we'll go ahead and return last pause list, and then we won't even bother doing the checking. So this is just a speed or performance situation. We're just saying, well, if you've already checked here, there's no point checking again to recalculate how big I am, because I already know how big I am. Not really that big of a concern, but it might not hurt really. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply that, And so now we've got our character, he's getting his size set, and now we know where he is. So now we need to actually start saying, alright, here is where my character is, check these positions when you want to try to pass over me. Now in RPG Maker VX, this method is listed under game character. It is called def pause ? And what this basically does is a comparison to say, hey, are you at this position? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to modify that method, and we're going to go ahead and put that right here. We don't need the comment on it, but I'll leave it on there for right now. But what we're going to do is we're going to actually go ahead and modify this. We're going to say return value equals false. So we know that if you're not in this position, so we're only going to change this to a true if one of your positions matches the position that's being asked. So we'll go ahead and ask positions XY to get us a position list. Okay, so we've got our list. So we'll just go ahead and call it pause list, so we actually keep rather common here. So we've got our position list, which is an array of points. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and say for position in position list. Okay, and remember here we did not specify an XY, so thereby it's going to ask it where it's currently at. Okay, and it's always going to be the upper left hand corner is the actual XY, while the other ones are all just fabricated checkpoints. So what we're going to do is we're going to say for position in my positions list, if pause equals point.new, and then we'll just go ahead and let's actually set this up here as check pause equals point.new, and then we'll just say if it's equal to that, then we are going to change the return value to true. Okay, so that's the general idea, and then down here we will return the return value. Okay, so the basic gist again is that we are saying we're just setting a base value saying no, I'm not here. Then we say, alright, store the position that you actually want to check at, get where I'm at, and go through each of those positions, and if any one of my positions matches where you're checking, then change the value to true. So in other words, you hit me, or I'm there, and then it will return that if it was true, and if not, then it'll return the false. So that's kind of the general gist of that method there. So now we've gone and identified where that character is. So this will probably work right now for characters on the map trying to move around. However, they're still not going to collide with other events, because that is actually handled by a method called collide events inside of the game. Well, I think it's actually, it might be in game event, but I think it's under game character as well. Let's see. Collide with characters is a method right here, and this one here, and actually both of those we're going to need to be checking, because we need to ask it, hey, can I pass on the map? Okay, can I pass on the character? So can I even move to the location, and so on. So let's go ahead and take those two pieces. We're going to go ahead and copy those and move those on down here. I'm going to paste those in. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to modify this to also be the same. So we're going to go ahead and so this one here we actually replaced the method. Technically speaking, you could play with it a little bit, but I mean in this place here it's really best to actually replace the method, since you're just saying, you know what, I really want it to be based on large events, and here's exactly how it needs to be varied or done. So really replacement is the best method in this particular instance. However, for map passable,
I'm wondering, I mean, since it's obviously just saying check this location, it's really probably easier just to go ahead and this one here we can do an alias, and then we can just call the alias for each one of the map checks for each of the points in which the character is checking. So